time, like I can give you a good example. An old boyfriend that I had told me that he didn't believe that that kind of magic worked because when he was a little boy, he put a list of all the toys he wanted for Christmas, and then he buried it under the rock and said, this is what I want for Christmas, and I'm going to get them, because he really believed in magic. And then he went back the next day expecting all the toys to be under the rock, but they weren't there. And so he said he stopped believing in magic. And then I said, well, did you end up getting all those toys over the course of your life? And he said, yes, I actually did get them, but it was like, you know, Christmas after Christmas after Christmas. So even though it might not be like an immediate reciprocity, that kind of magic works over time. And when voodoo doctors, you know, will send, you know, curses or healing, time is a very funny thing with those. It doesn't necessarily happen overnight. Same with the law of attraction. Like, you know, people say you'll get rich overnight if you just set your intention or attract the right thing, but sometimes these things take an entire lifetime to accomplish. It just depends, you know.
What were some of the more interesting reactions you received to your book?
I've gotten a lot of interesting reactions, actually, because I tried to write it for the people who love The Secret.
Yes.
You know, that are just like, oh, Secret's awesome, I love it. And I didn't want to be disparaging to them or make them feel like they're ignorant, because this material is not available anywhere. I mean, I rooted through a lot of Hermetic ancient texts to make it available and quote a lot of scripture, and there's a lot of Bible stuff in there too. Jesus uses law of attraction, you know, as you think so shall you be,
right.
All that kind of stuff. Mind cure, that's all law of attraction stuff. And so I wanted to present it to them so that they would like it, and I've gotten two specific reactions. They either love it or they hate it. The ones that don't like it feel like they don't understand what I'm talking about, and you know, they don't, I think it's because they don't want to feel like they're causing harm by doing the law of attraction. And the last chapter of the book is called Some Secrets Should Be Kept. And I kind of give some examples of how you can actually harm people by doing this, because it all comes from somewhere. People think this money just comes out of nowhere, but if you're getting money, it's coming from someone else. And us Americans, with our entitlement, all our money is, you know, taken from the whole rest of the world. And we just like hog it all here, and then everyone else is suffering everywhere else. And people don't really want to think about that, you know, like Rhonda Byrne in her mansion in Montecito, you know, I doubt really wants to imagine that even though she has all these millions of dollars, that people in the rest of the world have nothing. So for that reason, I think some people don't really like it, because they don't like to face up to that. And then I've had the opposite end where people were like, I had no idea about this, I didn't realize the implications, you know, they were very excited that I made the history available to them. So for me, that's what made it worthwhile, is that I could give people access to that information that they hadn't even considered, you know, that are actively using the law of attraction and performing voodoo, that they didn't even know what they were doing, and I was able to show them that, you know, they should think about it a little more.
Aside from the fact that you're able to retire now and never work again.
Yeah, right.
After you're writing a book for Feral House.
Yeah, oh, totally. It's like easy. Everything just rains from the sky.
Everything just rains from the sky now.
Yeah, totally.
What are some of the more interesting reactions you received to this latest book?
The more interesting reactions have been that it's been accepted.
Yeah.
These covers, first of all, one thing you'll learn when going through the book and just studying the subject in general is that sex sells, we know that. Sex sells cars, sex sells everything. Sex sells drugs. These covers, all the women on the covers, it's as if only women are drug users, not men.
That's true.
All the figures on the covers of these things are gorgeous women in a state of half undress or half ecstasy or wanting ecstasy. And I don't mean the drug, I mean just that state of mind. Sex and drugs have been married almost from the beginning. And it has a lot to do with when Europe was introduced to the Orient. And in the mid to late 19th century, Europe was just gaga over all things Oriental. And opium, new, exotic, a vice from the Orient that Europeans were totally unaware of. So opium smoking became very exotic and associated with sexuality, particularly in this country when Chinese immigrants brought their opium smoking habit with them. Now, if you took opium, either in laudanum, which is a tincture of opium, or in morphine, for medical reasons, that's okay. You had a medical reason for doing it. But then as now, if you smoked opium for pleasure, that's bad. And you had Chinese people coming in here, you started seeing lurid exploitation stories about white women becoming seduced by Chinese men through the use of opium. So right away there's a connection between sexuality and drugs. And then, because when drug use submerged into the underworld, then it was the province of prostitutes and people in the sporting class. So the connection between sex and drugs grew stronger still. Then in the post-World War II era, you start seeing all these paperbacks where the message is sex, drugs, drugs, sex. Drugs make you feel good, sex makes you feel good, put the two together, good becomes great. And whether it's true or not, and not everyone who uses drugs has
ecstatic sex.
So not everyone who enjoys sex enjoys drugs. But there are people for whom this connection is strong, a connection made in youth or sometime, and they can't break it. And once again, we're a culture devoted to commerce.
Right.
And you want to sell paperbacks? Put a sexy woman on the cover.
Right.
And once again, without belaboring the point too much, sex sells drugs.
No. I disagree.
You disagree?
The only way to sell a paperback is to put a swastika and a blood in shape of a tear. And that's a surefire hit.
Adam, we should.
Which one of your books did you do that for?
I didn't do any of my books that way.
Why not?
Wanting to
Because
for a
I am
long
not
time.
an exploitative type of publisher.
Yes, you are. I thought you were the publisher of Feral House.
How can you call it exploitative? It's all very well researched.
Adam, on the
first of
cover of
all-
our book, we should have put a naked lady with a swastika bleeding on her boob, and that's, we would have just told like.
You can
millions
hit
of
all
them.
sectors
Exactly.
at once. Yeah.
Let me just add that I put this book together. Well, first of all, I sold the idea to Adam about 3.5, almost 4 years ago.
In a drug-induced haze?
No, not at all.
After they
Yeah,
got
I have to come to grips with that.
It came right off of Cinerama. I pitched the idea to Adam,
They're great ideas, yeah.
who went for it immediately. But I can't think of any other publisher in this country who would have the nuts to put this book out. There really isn't anyone.
Adam's the only guy who gives fair
He's not an
go
ex- he
to
doesn't-
serial killers.
He's not exploitative. He's an
Look,
iconic
everybody's human.
He's got a painting of Joseph Stalin in his. Do you still work? Where's your
well-
Joe Stalin painting these days?
Jody doesn't really care for that so much. It's now in the attic.
It's not in the bedroom?
Well, sometimes for special events they bring it out.
Am I hearing that the attic is becoming the new Feral House vault for all things that can't be in, mainstream?
Yeah, there's an aesthetic taboo there. That's what
Are
it
you
is.
limited on what you're allowed to publish now that you're married?
No, because Process Media is our collaborative effort. At Feral House, she can't get even
She
near
can't
it.
put her hands near
No,
it.
no, but that's a collaborative effort. And it's got the anima as well as the animus, and it's got all the, and we're getting really. I wanted something. I had more womanly quality to it that I can't really reach that well.
Other than the Suicide Girls.
Yeah, well, yeah, that was of course
So what role did you play in their books? Were you
what-
the
what
benevolent father figure? Were you the judging patriarch?
Which book?
Were you
Which
the
book are you-
supportive, nurturing? Their
Well,
books,
Adam
the
helped
one.
a lot with my book.
Yeah, how did he co-wrote
And
it?
it came out of conversations that we had about The Secret, so it was.
Did he pull his
totally-
weight, or
Oh, yeah,
did he
you
just
know.
like put his name on it? And because
No,
he
Maja wrote it all, and I just threw my name
threw
on
your
it.
name on it?
Yeah. No,
Because that's the way
admit
men
that
have
now.
treated women for thousands of years.
Right. And then we suffer silently.
Yeah, well, Maja was a good sport about the whole thing, taking away her credit, the proper credit. No, it was like we both
And
worked
Jody
on
helped
it
too.
together. Jody helped, yes.
Totally.
It's. Yeah, I mean, it's Maja's first book, and she's really